It's time for another edition of Special Edition, brought to you by AT&T. Bill Jones along with Nate Newt, Bucky Brooks, and Isaiah Stanback as we are 1 week into this unique Cowboys training camp 2020 at Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. 1 week down, 3 weeks to go before the Cowboys kick off the regular season at the Los Angeles Rams. Let's kick things off by going around the horn. We'll start with you, Nate. Your impressions through 1 week of a Mike McCarthy-led camp.
You know what I hear and I see a little bit of the highlights that this team is upbeat. They're doing high energy and they're doing their thing. So that's what you can ask for early in camp, the intensity.
You know, Nate, you talk about the intensity. I love what I'm seeing from the defense, the defensive line in particular. Alden Smith joining in, the way that they're gelling. I like what they're doing.
Yeah, but to your point, man, I'm excited about this defense as well. Mike Nolan obviously has all the tools that he's ever imagined for. And he sounds like these guys are running around, playing free and making plays. So it should be a good season.
Of course, there was some bad news early in the week as Gerald McCoy goes down with season-ending injury. We'll have more on that coming up. But let's start with the new look to this Cowboys camp. And when you walk on the practice field and take a look out there, you see quarterbacks in red jerseys, which is not uncommon around the National Football League, but it is uncommon at a Cowboys training camp, really going back to the Landry days and Jimmy Johnson days and Bill Parcells. And you look elsewhere around and you've got names on the back of jerseys. Maybe that's a product of this COVID-19 season we're in without an off season, and and coaches need names on the back of some jerseys when you got an 80-man roster in training camp. Let's hear from Mike McCarthy himself on his style of a training camp practice.
Well, I mean, the reality of it's a little closer to the norm. I have great respect for history and tradition, and it's something that I've always paid close attention to. But frankly, the names on the back of the jersey was initiated more by the fact that we had so many new people here, all the way across the board, as far as players, coaches, so it was something that we felt that we needed to do. So it really wasn't a this is how I done it moment. I would say that if anybody came here from Green Bay, they would be able to pretty much step right in, because there's a lot of things from a routine standpoint that are the same. Being in Green Bay for 13 years, I've tried and utilized a lot of different schedules. So really, the schedule that we're using in Dallas is really a combination of those experiences. But I think it's like pretty much anything in this business. You're a product of your experiences.
Well, especially without an off season, an adjustment for everybody with a new coaching staff, coaches getting used to players and being able to analyze what they can do and actually getting their hands on them and being able to coach them rather than doing Zoom sessions in the off season. What is the biggest thing of the transition from one coaching staff to another, Nate?
First thing I try to do is find out what my position coach wanted. The techniques I tried to perfect as quick as I could. I stayed in my playbook early and often to make sure I could do the right things, because I want to impress this coach, because I don't want some first round pick coming in there taking mine.
Nate, I understand that, because you talk about coaches coming in with different philosophies. I think the Cowboys have to understand how Mike McCarthy wants to win games. You've heard him talk about complementary football. Fast, explosive offense complemented by a pass rush defense, a defense that gets after it. I think we're seeing those things come out to play on the practice field.
Yeah, Phil. And you hear everybody talking about the red jerseys and how important that is. It lets you guys know exactly where Mike McCarthy is right now in terms of letting his guy know who do you not touch. Do not touch the quarterback. I know from my time playing with the New England Patriots at the quarterback position, it was just something of the norm. So I'm glad those guys are taking those precautions. Everybody knows that the QB is ahead of this team, and I'm looking forward to seeing these guys go out there and make a lot of plays and play smart football.
And Bucky, let me ask you, your scouting background, what about scouts as they actually get to see their players that they scouted out on the practice field? It is nice to be able to see them in the flesh, right?
It is absolutely nice to see them in the flesh. This is an important time of year, because without preseason games, you have to make these evaluations very, very quickly based on practice. So you get with the coaches and try and figure out how a guy's learning, who's picking up the system, how are they competing on the field. But yeah, The scouts are very important in this process because you're leaning on them without the addition of preseason games this year.
All right, let's dive into the big news of the past week. Bad news as the Cowboys put on the pads for the first time back on Monday. The Gerald McCoy story when Cowboys Special Edition, brought to you by AT&T, continues in a moment.
Special Edition, presented by AT&T, is brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Salvation Army, doing the most good. And by AT&T. This segment is brought to you by the Texas Lottery. Play the new Sevens scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery. With top prizes up to $977,000. There's a Sevens scratch ticket for everyone. So play today.
Welcome back to Special Edition, brought to you by AT&T. Bill Jones with Nate Newton, Bucky Brooks, and Isaiah Stanback. Cowboys put on the pads for the first time on Monday, and it was 45 minutes into that workout at Ford Center. Gerald McCoy, their biggest offseason acquisition, goes down with an injury, what appeared to be a freak injury, a ruptured right quadriceps tendon, season-ending surgery. The Cowboys subsequently release him the next day. As it turns out, there was a clause in his contract, specifically a right quad clause in his contract. So Gerald McCoy had surgery the next day, still smiling. But it keeps his signing bonus, but the Cowboys off the hook for the rest of the practice. But that was a very disappointing way, Isaiah, to kick off this training.
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked about it in the past, the risk that we're going to run by starting camp without having a full offseason to train. And it's really unfortunate that our number one acquisition this offseason, Gerald McCoy, comes in and the first day of padded practices suffers kind of a freak accident. Unfortunately, it's something that he's obviously dealt with in the past, which is why they had it in his clause. But he'll come back from it. He'll be healthy again. But unfortunately, the Cowboys have to move on at this point in time, and it creates a huge opportunity for some of these younger guys to step up and take the role and take the opportunity to make plays and establish themselves as a credited player on this team.
Isaiah, it's funny that you talk about opportunity because that's what it does create. It creates an opportunity for a guy like a Tristan Hill, someone who some had maybe written off because he hadn't played up to the standard. But now you hear Mike McCarthy talk about I like some of the things that he's done. He has a clean slate because he comes in with a new coaching staff, new position coach. Jim Tom Zula is one of the best D-line coaches. So maybe, just maybe, they can get something out of their former second-round pick. Maybe he can step in and be a contributor this season.
I thought when they brought this guy in, it was more than just as a player. Even though he was our top acquisition, during the offseason, I thought that he would be a mentor to Neville Gallimore. He would help Tristan Hill to understand how to be a pro. But we also can put Tyrone Crawford in that same category because he can help teach these guys with the new schemes and new positions and how to handle themselves as pros. I think that is the key to that. If he can come back from this surgery and just give a little bit of that, even though they released him, let him hang around and teach these guys how to be pros.
Nate, it's interesting you bring that up because Gerald, even the day after his surgery, even though he's released by the Cowboys, he can't go inside the building. He said he put a video out on Instagram right after his surgery and said he is going to continue to be a mentor to these players. The positive impact, he's a people person. I think that's something that the Cowboys are going to lose out of that locker room, but it really says a lot about Gerald McCoy that he has that kind of attitude, that he just wants to help people out. And let me ask you specifically, Nate, about Tyrone Crawford and the possibility that he might be able to kick in and help out as far as the depth goes on that defensive line now.
He's coming off double hip surgery. If he can handle the weight and the rigors of the work, I think Tyrone Crawford will fit well. He was one of the few guys that's a holdover from the last regime that we know was a presence in the locker room and a force, and he was a positive presence for. And when you're trying to run this 3-4 scheme, you're going to need for him to be there to show these guys.
And Bucky, with the signing of Everson Griffin, even though he plays outside, can that help though as far as the rest of the defensive line? You do have some players who have some position flexibility.
Oh, absolutely. I think Everson Griffin is a huge get. In fact, I've said this. He is an upgrade over Robert Quinn in terms of his ability to come off the ball. He is a terrific pass rusher, dynamic upfield rusher with a terrific complementary spin move. But what it does, it enables Mike Nolan to be very flexible and dynamic with this defense, kicking Everson Griffin inside or using Alden Smith in a different role. Being able to put D-Law, Everson Griffin, and Alden Smith on the field at the same time, lights out versus the NFC East opponents.
Well, it's a tough loss losing Gerald McCoy, but life goes on in the National Football League. When we come back here on Special Edition, let's hear from Cowboys COO Stephen Jones.
This segment was brought to you by the Texas Lottery. Play the new Sevens scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery. With top prizes up to $977,000. There's a Sevens scratch ticket for everyone. So play today. This segment is brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas.
AT&T Special Edition continues now. Time to hear from Stephen Jones. It's brought to you by Nationwide, and Kyle Yeoman's doing the honors.
There's been an abundance of momentum surrounding the Dallas Cowboys pass rushers this offseason after the front office revamped the defensive line. That momentum was halted this week after six-time Pro Bowler Gerald McCoy's season came to an end with an incident in practice, one that ruptured his right quad tendon and required surgery.
You know, your heart felt for Gerald McCoy. He was certainly fired up to be here. He was already making his presence felt. You know, he's just a really good football player. And as Jerry and I were talking, one of the hardest things about this from the Dallas Cowboys standpoint is, you know, when you get these older veterans, you're kind of, to some degree, you know, you're getting them in here to get you over the top for the year. He's a warrior. He'll get back, and in my opinion, he'll end up playing for the Dallas Cowboys, albeit not this year. I see him putting on a uniform in the future.
Despite the irreplaceable void left by McCoy, the franchise still feels confident about the depth they've built on that side of the football moving forward.
Well, that's why you have player acquisition, and as I like to say, 365 days a year. We certainly addressed it in free agency early, so we could take best player available in the draft. As you mentioned, we have Poe in there, and then of course got Alden Smith out on the edge, and then you go into the draft. The last 2 years we've taken Tristan Hill and now Gallimore. So we do feel really good about the players that we have here, and it was going to, you know, be a push to keep all the talented guys we have. So we do feel like we're in really good shape. That's why you do it. And then to add Everson Griffin here in the last week or so was huge, especially with the loss of McCoy. So we feel like we got some good veteran leadership in there. We feel like we got some good young guys coming. Tyrone Crawford's just always been a leader and a warrior in there for us, and know he'll step up and be a big part of helping that group come together, and I think has a chance to be one of the top groups in the NFL.
The aforementioned Everson Griffin was added earlier in the week via free agency to add even more firepower off the edge. The four-time Pro Bowler will battle for a starting right defensive end spot after logging an 8-sack season a year ago. But more importantly, he fits the mold that Mike McCarthy and the entire staff wants on that defensive side.
Can't have enough of these pass rushers. Certainly we've got Randy Gregory in the wings out there. We continue to work on getting him back in the mix. We all know that Alden hadn't played in a while, so we were wanting to shore up with one more edge rusher out there to get one. But George Edwards had a great feel for him. Really liked the player as a football player. Feel like he's got a lot left. And then, of course, as you mentioned, Coach McCarthy's had some rough Sundays going up against him. So. And then our scouting department had done a great job really looking at him and knowing, you know, had him targeted as one of the few players out there left on the street that could really help us out. Turns out there were 2 or 3 really nice pass rushers still left, and but he really fit the mold for us, and I think he's going to make a big difference for us.
All right, thanks, Kyle. And up next here on Special Edition, we hear from Zeke Elliott. And what are the expectations for this Cowboys team this season?
This segment was brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. This segment is brought to you by AT&T.
My individual goals are just win a Super Bowl. We have a great team. It's our time. That's all of our goals, just to win the Super Bowl, and everything else is going to fall in place after that.
Zeke Elliott with the sounds of training camp, brought to you by AutoNation. A special edition brought to you by AT&T continues now. All right, winning championships, that's always the goal, but how realistic for this Cowboys team? What kind of expectations should this Cowboys team have? Let's go around the horn and start with you, Bucky.
I believe this team is very well positioned to be a title contender. When you look at this offense, potentially having 3 1,000-yard receivers, Ezekiel Elliott being able to carry the load, I think the Cowboys have the talent to get it done. If they can play a certain style, start out fast, force people to have to play against that pass rush, they absolutely can cause problems. I can see this team winning 12 to 13 games with their talent.
I agree with you, Bucky. Only if we play great situational defense. Understand that going into the half, we have to be able to get that ball back to our offense. Going into the fourth quarter, we have to be able to get that ball back to our offense. Make that play when the play comes to you. And if our defense can do that and play great situational defense, we have a chance to win the NFC East.
I totally agree with both of you guys. I'm on Bucks train by believing that these guys are going to go about 12-4. We do have a relatively tough schedule going into this year with some tough away games. And, it's really just going to depend on how these guys decide to show up on the defensive side of the ball. We know that they're going to score points. I'm looking forward to Mike Nolan and his new defense and what that looks like. But I think that third phase that nobody ever talks about, special teams, is going to play an intricate part on how we decide to go forward and if we ever have a real chance to win the Super Bowl.
And the other part of this, it's the Dallas Cowboys. The expectations are always very high here with the Cowboys. And we started this segment with Ezekiel Elliott. Nate, how important is that running game in a new offense, a Mike McCarthy offense, that Zeke Elliott continues what he's done early in his career?
I don't think Coach McCarthy ever had a back like Zeke. Zeke is elite. And when he turned Zeke loose with all this spread, single back, 4 receivers, I was stay in that set all the time, my friend, and just turn Zeke loose on with screens, outside runs, inside runs, punish him.
All right, when we wrap up Special Edition in just a moment, who is the most impressive player so far? Through 1 week of training camp, we've got some opinions to throw at you. When Cowboys Special Edition, brought to you by AT&T, continues in just a moment.
This segment was brought to you by AT&T. Special Edition, presented by AT&T, was brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. AT&T. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full access to coaches' film and game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl. Subscribe at DallasCowboys.com/Game Pass.
Final minute of Special Edition brought to you by AT&T. Who's impressed us the most through 1 week of training camp? Let's go around the horn. Let's start with you, Isaiah.
I'm going with Francis Bernard. The undrafted rookie linebacker is out there causing havoc and making turnovers every single day. He's frustrating the heck out of Dak, and we're looking forward to seeing him through the rest of camp.
He's back. Anthony Brown making plays, doing his thing. Come on, homeboy, let's rock and roll.
You're talking about Anthony Brown, that back end. I'm going to say up front, Aldon Smith has already made his presence known. If he gives the Cowboys what he's been giving them in camp, man, look out. They're going to have a loaded defensive line.
Talk about he's back. How about Aldon Smith? He's back. We're going to talk more Aldon Smith and Everson Griffin and all these Cowboys next week here on Special Edition. We appreciate you joining us this week, and we will see you again next week. Special Edition brought to you by AT&T.